My ex-husband's new wife forced my daughter to wear a back brace and got her injured. Now, they are both behind bars. When my ex-husband remarried, my daughter was 6. His new wife, Erin, was the kind of woman who smiled just enough in public to make people believe she was a doting stepmom, but there was always something off. She had this obsession with posture and discipline that seemed harmless at first, correcting my daughter's stance in photos, telling her to stand tall like a lady in front of family. But behind closed doors, it became constant nitpicking. How she sat, how she held her fork, how she carried herself. Whenever I'd bring it up, my ex would brush it off as me being sensitive or jealous. Meanwhile, my daughter began to dread going there on her weeks. She'd come home quieter, sometimes with faint red marks on her shoulders from corrections Erin insisted were harmless. The more I pushed, the more they doubled down, framing me as the overprotective mom who couldn't handle that my daughter had structure in their home. Erin made sure to play perfectly whenever my ex's family or friends were around. To them, she was the model stepmother, involved, caring, and invested in my daughter's future. But I knew better. I saw how my daughter would shrink into herself when Erin entered the room, how she'd stop mid-sentence if Erin even looked her way. By the time my daughter was 9, I was already fighting the urge to go to court again. I just didn't know how bad things would get until the night she came home with a homemade brace strapped so tight around her that her arm tingled and her back ached. That's when my fear turned into rage. My daughter is 9, and we share custody by alternating weeks. My daughter says her back hurts now, and her arm is tingling. I have a doctor's appointment for her on Monday, and in the meantime, I am trying to remain calm. I confronted my ex-husband about it, and all her would say was one text message where he says his new wife didn't like how my daughter slouched at the dinner table. They aren't doctors, and there is nothing wrong with her that she needs a brace. I fucking want to kill both of them. Is there a way I can get a quick court date or see a judge because I don't want her to go back there? When we divorced, it took a long time to figure out custody. Update. I called into work while I was trying to get all this sorted. One of my coworkers has a cousin who is a lawyer, and she knew someone who was able to help me and file the paperwork. My husband played dumb in court, but his visits got reduced to supervised, and he was ordered to take a parenting class. My daughter went to physiotherapy. Eventually, the court reinstated his visitation when he swore he had learned his lesson and was sorry, and with his otherwise clean record, the court agreed. I was against it, but the court ruled against me. I gave my daughter her own cell phone so she could call me whenever she needed to. On her second visit, it happened again. This time, the brace had steel and fabric instead of wood, and they took her phone too. The next night, she left when they weren't looking and went up the street to a neighbor who is a police officer. The neighbor called paramedics and her coworkers. They had to cut the brace off my daughter. My husband and his wife were arrested. They got out quickly, but they have been charged and their infant is with CPS. My ex lost visitation and custody, and I'm working on making it permanent. Unfortunately, my daughter's shoulder was dislocated from the brace. It set back her rehab, and part of her arm is still numb and tingling. She needed surgery and is still recovering. She always played sports, especially at school, and did dance, but the doctor thinks she won't ever be able to lift her arm all the way up again. I hate my ex, and he'll see her again over my fucking dead body. Right now, I'm focusing on my daughter while my lawyer takes care of things. That's my update.